Welcome to Scorched Earth and a general reading for the sign of Capricorn, Sun, Moon or Ascendant for the month of August 2024. I hope you are well. I'm using the Pagan Otherworlds Tarot for you today. There it is. But before we begin, if the reading resonates with you and you'd like to go a little bit deeper, there will be an extended that you can access at the end. That is the first link in the description box. The second link in the description box is to my private community, which is the Order of the Phoenix over on the Circle platform. You can get access to all of the extended content for no extra cost. And hang out with an extraordinary group of people. So if that sounds like it's something that might be of interest to you, you know what to do with that. Right, Capricorn. Let's have a look and see what's going on with you. Could I have 3 cards for Capricorn, please? Cards for Capricorn. There's the first. We have the Ace of Swords appearing sideways. What about current energy for Capricorn, please? Thank you. We have 2 cards, and they are the 6 of Pentacles and the Page of Cups. And what about what's coming towards Capricorn, please? Fuck. Excuse me, that one just fell right on the floor there. Where's it gone? We've got the 7 of Cups in reverse. That's quite interesting. You'll notice straight from the off that we have no major arcana on the table. We do, however, have it in the shadow card at the bottom of the deck here. We have the Temperance card, which is quite interesting, given that it speaks about things like balance and equilibrium and all those sorts of things. And we do here in your current energy have the 6 of Pentacles, which in some ways talks about a similar sort of thing, but from a different perspective. The Temperance card can speak to lots of other things besides, and we will certainly get into that in a moment. But it feels much more like this month, and the time leading up to this month, the time in this month, and the time coming out of this month is about regaining some sort of control over those things that are inherently yours, Capricorn. I'm not talking about material considerations. I'm talking about your perspectives, your goals, your aims, and your emotional literacy. Is the word that it's actually the phrase that I want to use there, emotional literacy. But we'll get into it. We'll see what this is all about. We'll see, it's this deck here that wants to be used as a clarifier. So let's move those out of the way so we're not getting distracted. And we'll give them a little shuffle and see what's going on. So, why is the Ace of Swords here, please? We have the 7 of Cups, and one more for that, please. We have the 7 of Swords. Interesting, double 7. Tell me about the 6 of Pentacles and the Page of Cups, please. We have the Death card, Scorpio energy, or Pluto. And that's quite interesting because as we speak, Pluto is currently in retrograde. I'm sure you're all aware. It is in the sign of Aquarius, but come September 4th, it will be entering your sign again, just for 6 weeks, and it is the last time in your lifetime that that will ever happen. So if there is ever a point at which we could feel ourselves getting ready to go back over ground that we have potentially already covered, it would be for you this build up to the September the 4th, which is the whole of August. So something to bear in mind. Tell me about the 6 of Pentacles and Page of Cups, please. Hermit in reverse. Interesting. And the 5 of Swords, lying sideways. Tell me about the 7 of Cups, please. Why is this here? Right. We have Page of Swords in reverse. We have the Hanged Man in reverse, and we have the Temperance card in reverse. With the High Priestess, the what now? The High Priestess overseeing everything over here. Now, this is a bit of a shit show, as far as the cards are concerned, at least, anyway. So give me a second to just kind of line these up in a way that is vaguely legible for you. And I'll not mess around. I feel like Capricorn, we're kind of moving, and I say we because I'm a Capricorn ascendant, right? Some of you may be aware of that, some of you may not. I feel like we're moving into a period of time where it feels almost like the vice grip is coming back on in some way or another. I heard a lot of astrologers say, oh well, now Pluto's coming off your ascendant in January, you must be feeling a little bit of relief, and in some ways possibly we might have, but in other ways, Pluto just went into our second house instead, and our second house, as well as being the house of money, that income, money that we earn, all that sort of thing, it is also the house of self-worth and how we feel about ourselves. There's no Pluto transit going over that's going to feel comfortable, in my opinion, but that's just me. Anyway, this feels like a knot that has been formed over time, a long time, that has been kind of left out in the garden, right? So imagine something, I don't know, garden twine or something like that, right? It's been left out in the garden, it's got knotted up, and now exposure to the elements has caused it to be tatty, metaphorically speaking. And your task, I would say this isn't just for August, but I think you should be prepared for this being August, September, October, and well into November. November 19th being the point where Pluto returns to Aquarius. Being the process of unpicking all of the knots, trying to get this garden twine or whatever it is out straight, and cutting off the tatty ends that aren't going to serve in whatever plan you have moving forwards. From there, we're also going to have to roll it all up and get it all nice and tidy so it can be hung up somewhere in the barn out of the way until such time as you need it. But it is very much around the idea of the intersection between mind and heart. Right, we've got emotions with all these water cards, we've got swords all over the place, and none of them seem to be in a particularly dignified position, Capricorn. That's the thing that's kind of bothering me about this. We've got the Ace of Swords on its side. We like to see it in the upright. We've got the Seven of Swords, neither a bad nor a good card, really, as is every card within the tarot. But again, not really committing to going one way or the other. We have the Five of Swords here, also on its side. We have the Page of Swords in the reverse. None of these are speaking to clear thinking at the moment. Now that in some ways would make perfect sense with the way that the world is at the moment, right? That we are increasingly descending into chaos. And certainly if you're living in the Western world, that everywhere you look, that is the case. And Capricorns do best, in my opinion, traditionally, when they know exactly what the rules of the game are, right? And they adjust themselves accordingly to meet those rules. They set the parameters of what they want to achieve, whether it be in the field of resources or whatever, right? And they're like, okay, this is the straight line that I have to walk to get from where I am right now to over there. And they put the blinkers on and they go for it. And this is why traditionally you have always been such a high achiever in whatever it is that you do, because you've got that ability to be able to screen off the things that do not form part of this mission from A to B, or rather A to Z, actually, right? But times have changed. I said, I don't know, did I say it in December? I might have been saying it in November, December, certainly January this year. When Pluto moves into Aquarius, the rule book gets torn up. Nothing that was applies anymore, and we have to find a new way of doing things. Now, there has been a bit of a breather, if you will, with Pluto coming off your ascendant for the last 8 months, whatever it is. It's been busy doing other things too, but like I said, in your second house and whatnot. But like this very pointed coming back to your ascendant means that it isn't just this one last push. It feels like, because it's going to be sitting at the critical degree of Capricorn, the 29th degree, the great destroyer degree, that, well, generally speaking, the 29th degree of any sign whatsoever is characterized by somewhat of crisis. Now, crisis in the first house, crisis in the ascendant, could be issues of identity, but possibly more likely it would be crisis in the difference between the way that you want to be perceived, the way that you are perceived, and who actually you are at the core. Because this energy feels very, very messy, and yet it is overseen. We have the High Priestess on one side, overseeing. We have the Temperance card on the other side, overseeing. Now, the Temperance card sometimes can refer to divine intervention, divine timing, divine orchestration. But whatever it is, it's that sense of being guided through something. And then we have the High Priestess, the Oracle, the keeper of wisdom, sitting there, knowing the things, but not necessarily articulating the things. And certainly not to those that she does not deem worthy. The issue for you is you don't seem to really know which way is up or which way is down at the moment. You don't really seem to know what to think or what to feel about anything. And it's very difficult to plan for the future when you don't really know where you stand. Now, had these cards over here for August, any of them been in the upright, I would have felt that there was a progression here. Right? Certainly, coming through these cards and ending up here, that there's something very positive that was happening here. And that's not, and I want to really make clear that I don't think that what's happening here is negative, but I do think it is challenging, and I think you would be best placed to prepare yourself for that. Bit of my tea. So let's start over here, right? And let's get this story rolling here, because this is the important stuff. But I feel like you need to have some understanding of how you're gonna get there in the first place, or even how you've got to where you are, and who knows where that is. This pencil will suffice for me playing with the thing. So we have the Ace of Swords on its side. Like I said, this is not a comfortable place for the Ace of Swords to be. Generally speaking, it likes to be in the upright. It represents truth. It represents accuracy. I think personally for me, I think it represents integrity too. It's clear thinking. It's the pure truth, absent any kind of taint of corruption or alternate agendas and whatnot. When it shows up in the reverse, what we're talking about is a lack of that. So we're talking about obfuscation of truth. We're talking about, deception of some sort, sometimes outright lies. And these can be the ways that we're lying to ourselves. It can be the ways that we choose to see the world, the things that we cherry pick as important about the world. Or it can speak to other people being deceptive around us. But the fact that you have these two cards, and they are numbered 7 here, even the fact that they are going off in different directions whilst on their side, right? 7 is a deeply mystical number, right? It's a card of some isolation sometimes, right? Needing a bit of space to be able to work things out for ourselves so that we can push at our own personal boundaries internally, work out where they are. Personal limitations, that's probably a better way of putting it, right? But a lot of this tends to be done solitarily. I'm not even sure if that's a word, but I've just made it up, right? But we've got emotions and confusion around emotions, a confusion about how you feel about things going in one direction, and then unclear thinking going in the other direction. And in both senses, you're being asked to look at your own limitations and be honest with yourself about your limitations, which does not seem to be happening with the Ace of Swords on its side. The question then that we should be asking ourselves when we see all of these three cards here together is like, what am I lying to myself about? What have I convinced myself is okay when it's really not? Whether that's in terms of the way that I treat other people or other people treat me, or what I expect from a situation. You know, what is my level of entitlement that I am expressing out into the world? You know, versus what am I actually giving? It's a huge, expansive area of self-examination that's going on here, that's pulling in two different directions, because something feels like it's not right. And I think it would be very, very difficult for you to have isolated one thing over another to be the thing that is the cause of whatever does not feel right to you. It's like there's something scratching in your head, and it's like, what it puts me in mind of is, not that I think that this is happening to you, but it put me in mind of what happened just before I had a bit of a fucking emotional breakdown in 2018, which lasted a weekend, exactly one weekend. But there was a run up to it, and I could feel what was happening on the run up to it, and I couldn't really explain what was going on. I've told this story before, and I shan't bore you with the details of it now, but it started with a book that I read, and by the time I got to the end of the book, I felt very uncomfortable. And I felt uncomfortable because I felt like my subconscious had picked up at the end of a ball of string. And it was pulling on it. And that pulling was going to go somewhere. It was going to reveal something that I had not seen before. I knew that. And that was Wednesday afternoon. By Saturday afternoon, I was about ready to set the world on fire. Like, I just was fully in the grip of it. And then I got up Sunday and the emergency switch had flipped in my head, and I just felt numb. I felt nothing at all. It started with that feeling, that nagging feeling that my subconscious was putting something together and I probably wasn't going to like what it showed me. 7 of Swords. But there's this 7 of Cups over here. There are feelings here that are rising to the surface that are difficult for you to articulate at the moment because you're not quite sure how to experience them. You're not quite sure of the accuracy of what you are experiencing. Now, this has all happened in your recent past. And to be clear, that's going to be from any time from like this morning when you got up before you watched this video, right back to about 6 weeks ago. It could be that this has been a creeping thing that's been going on for a little while, and it's just, you know, it's just getting louder and louder and louder. Or it could have hit you like a fucking train at some point while you were, I don't know, buying some avocados in the supermarket or something like that, right? I think it's probably more likely that it's been sneaking up on you because it feels like it's one of those things where it kind of raises its head and you go, oh, that's weird, and push it away. And you don't think about it anymore, and then it comes back and it comes back, and when it's come back a few times, you're like, what is this? What is this that I'm feeling? What is this about? Workings of the heart, workings of the head. And somewhere, something, quite frankly, just not making sense between the two. We've got the Queen of Pentacles, which is you, Capricorn, and we've got the 2 of Pentacles, also a Capricorn card. We've got the Fool at the bottom of the deck, and I think that this is important, not because the Fool is here right now, but this is almost like a suggestion of the Fool, like where you go from here. Ultimately, long term, and generally Capricorn's quite interested in the long term, will be setting you free. But in order to set you free, you've got to go through some uncomfortable awarenesses, I guess, like some sort of, you know, awakening of such that's coming to fruition. Because the 2 of Pentacles is my card of coping. And this says quite straightforwardly, like, you've been coping. You haven't been thriving, you haven't been surviving. There are things that you've had to lie to yourself about. And I know that that sounds brutal when I say it like that. I am aware. I don't mean it to sound quite as brutal as it is. But if, you know, if we drop the kid gloves with something, you know, when we perform mental gymnastics on ourselves, as our subconscious does all the time, and this is right across the board, everyone you've ever met has got something that they've performed mental gymnastics about. It's a lie. It's one way in which we are not fully perceiving the truth of a situation, or we're not allowing ourselves to see or to feel the truth of a situation. So this period of coping feels like it's slowly drawing to an end, ultimately to free you, but it's going to be quite uncomfortable as you navigate through it first. Now, Six of Pentacles, Page of Cups is really important. The Six of Pentacles is Moon in Taurus, so for me it's got that quality of grounded emotions, balanced emotions, right? But because it's Pentacles, we're also talking about those things that you have available to invest, right? So your time and your energy and your care, sometimes your money, but this reading certainly is not about that. It's like, where is your attention going? What are you investing it in? Is it the same thing that it always has been? Because if it is, like, where you are going in the next few months, Capricorn, like, that is simply not in alignment with who you are being built up to be. Now we have the Page of Cups at the bottom of the coming up here with the Six of Pentacles, and I think that in order to develop these grounded, balanced emotions, and I think Capricorn's one of those signs that it's just, there's a natural stoicism to Capricorns. But I do wonder if at times whether that stoicism is born of a desire to manage your external fascia, if you will, right? It's what other people see of you. And that if you were being really real, if you were being really authentic, then sometimes that demeanour would slip. Sometimes that careful poise that is so managed about Capricorn would actually fall by the wayside, and something would come out that you don't necessarily enjoy, you wouldn't necessarily like, but it would be authentically you. The Death card talks about transformation. It's a somewhat overused word nowadays, but actually the period of time that we're in at the moment, I don't think that it is, I don't think it's too much. Because you've already experienced a period of profound transformation. If you are a Capricorn ascendant and you've had Capricorn reversing your first house, because I mean, let's say also prior to 2008 you had Pluto traversing your 12th house, which is not a comfortable place. That's the subconscious, the mind, the imagination, the bit of you that is totally locked away, even usually from yourself. You've been through these periods of transformation, but I'm not sure that you've ever been through anything like this. Because this Hermit card, Virgo energy, is in the reverse. And usually when this shows up in the reverse, I say, well, you spent enough time introspecting. It's time to get out there and start putting it into practice, right? You spent long enough in the cave searching for whatever truths. It's time to come out. I don't feel like that interpretation is appropriate here, because we've already established that you don't have a clear view of yourself, of how you feel, of how you think about what your future holds. You don't have anything beyond actually the coping that's going on at the moment. So then this Hermit in reverse becomes I would say the Death card here is a negative modifier. It becomes instructional. It's like you have to stop refusing to go within. You have to stop refusing to dig deep and see what is held in there. You know, we've got the Five of Swords lying on its side there. It's neither in the upright nor the reverse. It's not stable, but it's not completely imbalanced. It's not unstable. But the potential for that is contained within here. Even just the way that I put the card down here, it feels like the Hermit and the Five of Swords are connected in a way that makes them very difficult to separate. You know, the Death card, in a survey of 40,000 tarot readers, the death card was voted by an overwhelming majority. It was something like 97% voted. It being their favourite card. And that's not because tarot readers are edgy and all that sort of thing, or, you know, closet goths, although some of them might be. It's because in our position as tarot readers and being students of the human condition and students of human cycles, we recognise quite often when it's time for a cycle to break. Now, there's been all sorts of upheaval in your life for a very long time, Capricorn, and I understand the desire for stability and security. But I know for a fact that that is not something that you are going to be experiencing, certainly not over the month of August. And like I said, I would go as far as to say September, October and November too, because you feel to me to be absolutely yoked to a particular way of doing things. And if it's one thing that the death card stands for, aside from transformation, it is the idea that there are some energies that simply cannot be resisted. We see it here. You know, we've got a dead king. We've got, you know, a child down here. We've got the bishop, you know, absolutely pleading with the character of death on the white horse. And he's just plodding on regardless. We've got a woman here turning away from him. Now, the symbolism of this card is absolutely wild if you actually get, you know, sit and look at the symbolism in here. But we don't have time for that today. But the one thing that I do really want to point you to is this here. Now, you probably can't see it very well, so I'm going to hold it up to the camera so you can see it. In the background of the death card, you have two towers and a rising moon. Okay. We have the implication of the moon card and our arrival at it very soon. Somewhat like a long dark night of the soul, if you will. Something that's going to force a change in us, force a change in our perceptions of ourselves, of other people, of the world, of our place in the world. And generally speaking, they are not comfortable. And particularly not when the push here from the universe, the one that is saying you need to stop resisting looking within. And when I'm saying looking within, I'm like, you know, truly identifying who it is that you are, like finding yourself and finding out what it is that you stand for, what it is that you want. Because I think so much about the Capricorn archetype is about delayed gratification. It's about working towards a goal. It's about this, that and the other. The soul of Capricorn often gets completely left behind in favour of those things that are much more easy to work with, which is the material world. It just is, right? Because everything just works in straight lines and it's great. It's not emotions. It's not messy. It's not weird. It doesn't kind of jump scare you like emotion and other people's emotions do, you know, and the consequences that flow from that. But that world is very, very close to imploding. It doesn't exist anymore. And so now it's time to start this process of working out what you think and where it is that the self-sabotage that is so strong at times comes from. I mean, ideally what we want to do is stabilize this Five of Swords by getting it to turn around, right? Get it to show up inverted. But I don't think that that's possible while the Hermit is in the reverse, because like it's a refusal to engage. And the Death card's saying, well, you might have been refusing so far, but you're not going to get a chance to refuse it anymore, right? I'm coming. I'm on my way, and I will push you to the moon. And at the moon, you are going to have to look at yourself. You are going to have to take that long journey within and see what it is that is in there that is true. Because when we move into August, we have the Seven of Cups in reverse. Now, ordinarily, I would say that this was very good. You know, bear in mind, we've already seen the Seven of Cups, and it was pretty non-committal over here. This way, it's at least committed to a direction, right? We have suggested that there is emotional clarity coming. But it takes on a different hue when you look at these clarifiers, because we've got the Page of Swords in reverse, right, which suggests that there is no new information that is on its way in. We have the Hanged Man in reverse, which, you know, again, like the Hermit, sometimes that card for me means like you spent enough time hanging off the tree. You spent enough time, you know, contemplating and looking at things from a different perspective. Now it's time to get down from the tree. But the message here isn't that. And we have the Temperance card in reverse. Now, this Temperance card here, again, I was talking about it, you know, speaking of equilibrium and balance and all those lovely things, healing. You know, persevering after difficult circumstances. But if we take that meaning of the equilibrium and then we look at this Temperance card in reverse, it is quite likely that what we're going to see for you in August is an absolute tipping up of what you consider to be your equilibrium, particularly around things of an emotional nature. We're not necessarily talking about anything material, because we're not seeing, well, you know, we're not seeing the Tower, we're not seeing Pentacles cards here, we're not saying you're going to lose your job, you're going to lose your home. It's nothing like that. It feels like, though, that some kind of internal rug is getting pulled by your subconscious, right? Just as I was talking about before, right? That kind of, oh, my brain's, yeah, it's found something and it's pulling on it. And at some point it's going to present itself to me, and then everything changes as a result of what I see. That in itself is destabilizing as fuck, because the status quo has been adjusted. Now, bearing that in mind, bearing in mind also that we've had this battle of heart and head that seems to have been going on over here, right? Trying to discover the truth of, you know, which one is right, possibly. We've got some sort of emotional revelation, or at least revelation that has an emotional contingent component to it, right? And that emotion would be the way that you are reacting to something, the way that you're emotionally invested in something, right? That's the revelation. Seeing something that you didn't see before. And generally speaking, there's a clarity that comes with that. But these cards underneath it are saying that's not actually the case. That's not what's going to happen here, because you might feel emotionally in the moment like you've gained a bit of clarity, but there's no new information that's come to the fore. There's no big sword of truth that's giving you clarity moving forwards. Everything actually seems more confusing than it was before, and it's very difficult for you to make sense of things, because I think of the level of resistance that we're seeing here. The whole shtick of the Hanged Man is that it is a voluntary submission to discomfort. The Hanged Man in reverse, if you're not already in a Hanged Man state, is a refusal to engage with that level of discomfort. It is a refusal to go look and, you know, attempt to see the world from a different perspective. I've often talked about the Page of Swords as that state of mental expansion that comes as new information makes its way to your head. But if you are not open to hear that new information, if you are refusing the act of voluntary submission to a new perspective, then whatever fleeting clarity comes by way of this emotional revelation, it's not something that it feels to me that you're able easily to make sense of. Because those mental gymnastics that I was talking about at the beginning will be the ones that shut the door here and say, no, we're not going there. Because your mind knows when it's starting to make a connection between something and it doesn't feel comfortable. Now let's get some clarifiers here and see what's going on. Tell me about these three cards here. We have the Nine of Wands in reverse. We have the Eight of Wands in reverse, interesting. And in the upright, we have the Six of Wands. But the Ten of Swords is here at the bottom of the deck. Now, the Nine of Wands often is about boundaries and things like that. But for me, it talks about how we manage our own behaviors, right? The actions that we take. Nine of Cups, for example, would be about how we manage our emotions. Nine of Swords about how we manage our mind. The Nine of Wands is about what actions we do that are 100% voluntary and authentic, rather than projections or avoidance or any of those kind of things, right? And again, it's followed up by a card that talks about incoming communication, incoming information that is shut down because it's reversed. Now, the Six of Wands is a good card. It's Jupiter and Leo. It speaks about success and joy and victory and all of those cool things that we really, really enjoy. And as Capricorns, you are primed to focus on. You're chasing that. That's the thing that I want over there, to the exclusion of all else. But I think it's interesting, even as these cards have come out here, the way that they're sitting. Because what feels to me is being upended is not just your idea of success and what that means to you. But the reasons why you pursued that kind of success in the first place. Which leads us to the Ten of Swords. You know, all of this toing and froing with the swords and, you know, up, down, and the other. We've got a first swords card showing up in the upright, and it's the Ten of Swords. It's an end. It's a very uncomfortable end, but it's an end of a cycle of thinking that has been characterized by a lack of clarity. I think over the course of August, a lot of Capricorns are going to be weighing up all the things that they've achieved and trying to be completely honest with themselves about whether that's made them really happy. I think a lot of Capricorns are going to be looking at the success that has been achieved in the material realm and understanding that on some level they were bypassing the hard stuff because it's simply just quite a lot easier to do things this way. Like, all of this is this impending energy of Pluto, right? It's still in Aquarius, but the closer it gets to 0 degrees Aquarius and then 29 degrees and 59 minutes of Capricorn, like, all Capricorn placements are going to feel this. And it really is this, like, it's the last foray of Pluto into this part of you. Whether you're a Capricorn sun, a Capricorn moon, you know, a Capricorn ascendant, it doesn't matter. Perhaps even Capricorn Mars, Capricorn Venus. These are all going to be affected by this because it's the whole thing is trying to show you where you have chosen subconsciously not to see something, where you have fixated on a particular version of success for you that now feels empty. Now, I can understand why these two incredibly wise characters here are overseeing this, because in some ways it is going to need a bit of guidance for you to be able to work through it. But I think that what's more important is that you understand in August you aren't going to be seeing things clearly. You know, that famed Capricorn vision, right, which not only can see where you want to go over there, but can also retro-engineer the steps that you need to take to get there. I don't feel like that's working, not in the way that you're used to it working. I think it's highly likely that you could end up feeling incredibly fucking lost this month. The biggest mistake that you could make would be to assume that A, you're right about anything, B, that you have all the answers. Because what I'm seeing here is that the reverse is true on both cases. I think the meditation would be very helpful for you this month. And I also think that observation would be very useful for you this month. Not trying to force anything, not trying to control anything, and particularly not your thoughts. There's something that's trying to bubble up to the surface here that will be very uncomfortable as it comes up. But then you will be able to release it. Let's not forget that everything that is happening here is ultimately to free you. And most importantly, free you from your own mind. Free you from your own emotions, allowing them to evolve into something else. Meditation would be very good. Praying, if you felt so inclined, would be very good too. But observe everything without judgment as far as you are able. And if you're not able, then maybe there's a thing too. This feels like the start of quite a difficult process in August, but one that ultimately will give you much more freedom moving forwards. The problem is that it seems to be directed at the core components of you. And so there are some internal renovations that are required. The more that you can accept, the more that you can submit to this energy, I feel like the less lacerated you're going to get by it. And I know that this has been quite a difficult reading, but I really don't see the point in sugarcoating stuff. And if it isn't that bad, then that's good. That's really, really good. But if it is that bad, whatever that means to you, then I'd rather that you understood that it was some sort of test that was being put in front of you, like some sort of rite of passage that was being put in front of you, so that you understand that you are not being personally victimized by the universe at this point. This is about leveling you up to the next level, pushing through to a new level of capacity that you can't access from where you are. So, I shall leave it there. I'm going to go and do the extended now. Kind of forgot that I wasn't doing the extended actually. Going to go and do the extended, and we're going to dig into this pretty hard. So if you'd like to join me over there, you're very welcome to do so. You can do that on Vimeo, or you can do that over on Circle. Either is cool. I'd love to see you in either place. If that's not for you, then just keep breathing. Yeah, just keep breathing, and I would look for gentle support mechanisms like meditation, yoga, things that put you in your body, right, but allow you to be calm and allow you to observe, because there's going to be a lot to see this month if you have eyes to see it. And you're going to be fighting your brain because your subconscious doesn't really want you to see it. Alright, know that I love you all very, very much. And I'll see you soon.